Welcome to the TDCC Community Live webinar. TDCC stands for the Developing Child Center, located in Dubai. Established in 2012, we have been providing personalized support to over 1,000 children. We have 60 dedicated and committed experts, and we work closely with parents and schools to ensure no child is left behind. We think different, we teach different. We empower, not limit children. Labels like autism, dyslexia, and ADHD are not relevant or perceived as disabilities, difficulties, or disorders that limit children's abilities. We believe that brilliance needs difference. The TDCC services are available in English, French, and Arabic. The inclusive educational services nurture and support the developmental and educational needs and help empower each child to reach their full potential. Occupational therapy assists children in performing and achieving important learning and developmental skills they need in life. Psychomotor therapy is a healthcare profession that is based on a holistic view of the person and is involved in the treatment of different disorders. Speech and language therapy assists children who have disorders of speech, language, communication, and swallowing. Psychology provides both educational and clinical services, including counseling and parenting. ABA therapy focuses on improving specific behaviors. It is commonly practiced as a therapeutic intervention for individuals with autism. Specialist learning support. We assist in developing the academic and social development of students who need support in all these areas. And we design and host local and international training and workshops for practitioners, parents, caregivers, and educators. Just like this one today. We have a few rules to follow during the webinar. Please remain muted while the speaker is presenting. Please give your full attention to the presentation. We will be sending you the replay, so you can review it anytime. Please be interactive if the speaker requests your participation. During the question and answer session, we kindly request everyone to type their questions in the chat box and the speaker will address them.
Welcome to the 51st TDCC Live webinar worldwide on dyslexia, how to choose a school and write a robust IEP. Our speaker today is a distinguished dyslexia specialist. Zara Mirza is an accomplished educator and advocate with a master's degree in inclusion and special education from the University of Birmingham. She is an associate member of the British Dyslexia Association and a member of PA2's UK. With over 17 years of experience, Zara has specialized in supporting children with dyslexia, ADHD, autism, and learning challenges in both the UK and UAE. Her approach is underpinned by advanced certifications in Orton Gillingham, science of reading, and other evidence-based educational practices. She serves as the dyslexia assessor and head of learning support services at TDCC. A key figure in neurodiversity advocacy, Zara is a prominent voice advocating for more inclusive representation in autism research and interventions. Zara's commitment to the fundamental human right of acquiring literacy and communication skills drives her professional practice, community advocacy, and academic research. She often represents the Developing Child Center in media and conferences to share her expertise. Today we are honored to have her expand on the topic dyslexia. How to choose a school and write a robust IEP. Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you our dyslexia specialist, Zara Mirza.
All right, brilliant. Thank you so much for that. Right. So I'm actually going to start off by telling you what this webinar is not going to be about. So this webinar is not going to be about me giving you a list of schools that you can say, okay, fine, this is where you put your child. So that's not going to happen. And the reason why that's not going to happen is that each dyslexic individual is just that, the individual, they're unique. The second thing is that each family's circumstances are unique as well. So Whereas I might give you a list, it may not work for you. What we are going to do instead is we're going to look at the ingredients that would make one school win over another school. All right. The second thing that we're not going to do today, I'm not going to give you a bank of goals to put in an IEP for a dyslexic child. Again, the reason why we are not doing that is that IEPs are just that, they're individualized. Each child is unique. How they approach their learning journey is unique. Where they are with their unique neurology, that is individual to them. But what we are going to do in this webinar is that we're going to explore how to write a good IEP. So this is not about me saying do this, this, and this. This is more about us kind of collaboratively working to feel more empowered. Okay, right. So let's dive straight in. How do we do that? Brilliant, thank you. Okay, choosing a school. One of the questions that I get asked very, very often is which curriculum? My child's dyslexic, which curriculum? And a little bit of myth busting over here. There is no, first of all, we're in a unique position. Being in Dubai, we have got so many curricula available to us, which won't happen in other parts of the world. So, is there one curriculum which is better than another curriculum? Short answer, no. A lot of people say, oh, the British national curriculum is just so incredibly intense for dyslexic kids. I would counter that by saying that the British national curriculum also happens to have the longest history of very, very robust synthetic phonics teaching from the early years. Okay, so this isn't about curriculum. This is about looking for a school that happens to have, and we will talk about this in this circle here when we talk about Tier 1 ELA. So let's pop this little bubble right now. There is no curriculum debate. The second thing, while looking for a school, is that I would advocate that you go for a strength-based approach. So what I mean by that is don't just look at a school which is going to support the literacy needs or the inclusion needs of your child who's neurodivergent. Also look at a school that is going to cater to what they're good at. Because guys, the one thing that happens to be a common thread amongst all dyslexic kids, I would even say all neurodivergent kids, is that school and learning and the pressure of that environment, it's not necessarily something which is good for them. By good for them, I mean, what I mean to say over here is that school can be very, very stressful. If you're dyslexic, you're sat around lots and lots of kids who are getting things very easily. Your environment is telling you that perhaps I'm not good enough. So it really, really impacts on the self-esteem. So how do you counter that? You counter that by finding a school that plays to the strengths of the child. Okay, so let's say your child is amazing at sport. Find a school with a very good sports program, drama, art, design, all of these things. If they are really, really good at it, if it brings them a lot of joy, put them in that school. Because then they would have something that affirms them, that they are amazing individuals, and it also creates that strength that they need for future, for employability. Okay, right. So now looking at, if you've looked at a school that has a good sports program for your sporty kid, what kind of support elements are we looking for in that school? Step number one, staffing. That is so, so important. Sometimes parents come to me and they say, we want to go to this very popular inclusive school. And I'm like, yeah, but they have just turned around and told you that they don't have more space and inclusion. And there are times when parents actually withhold the support needs of their child to be able to get into a school. And I really think that, that from the get-go, you're kind of setting the stage for everyone who is trying to support that child. You're setting the stage for everyone to fail. So from the parents' side, go in with clarity of what you believe your child deserves to have in school in terms of support. On the school's side, don't take on a kid you think that won't be able to support. You have only one staff, and that person might leave the next year, and suddenly, oh, I'm very sorry, we actually can't support your child anymore because we don't have staff. So sometimes going for big brand name schools that have amazing inclusion reputation, it actually doesn't work. Simply because of the fact that they are overwhelmed with the number of children that they need to support. And sometimes it's going to be those really, really small schools that have like 6 or 10 children in a classroom, the new ones that are going to be the right environment for your child, where your child is then going to get that very intensive care and support for their learning journey. The second thing to ask a school is that if they have any good dyslexia interventions. If they do have good dyslexia interventions, if they have staff who are trained in dyslexia, perfect, wonderful. The third thing to look for is, do they have in tier 1? Now, what is tier 1? Tier 1 is your basic classroom teaching. Do they have a good English language arts program in tier 1? Because you cannot intervene your way out of a tier 1 problem. So if they have a good, solid synthetic phonics program happening in the classroom, that is going to be super duper important for not just your child, but for all children. Right. How do we go to the next one? Thank you. Okay. Right. Now, writing IEPs. Mums, dads, carers. The first thing that you guys need to do is take a look at the KHDA and what the KHDA say about inclusive IEPs. Okay, hang on. Don't look at my inbox. Look at this. Okay, so this is KHDA's main website. All right, and I want you guys to specifically, as mums and dads, look at this little thing here. It's called Advocating for Inclusive Education, a guide for parents. You download it and you read it, because this is the legal guideline of what the government says you and your child are entitled to when you choose a school and you start paying for education. So right from the point where you start looking for a school, to services within school, and that sticky icky business of learning support assistants and who pays for whom and who pays for what, everything from a legal perspective is in this thing here. And making sure that you are very knowledgeable about this is going to put you in a very, very good place when it comes to talking about how things are going to go for your child while they're in school. Now, next thing, when we are talking about IEPs, you have to decide, by you, I mean both school and parents, who's going to be on that IEP team. Because an IEP has to be a collaborative exercise. An IEP cannot be created by one person who sees a child for 40 minutes every 2 weeks. No. You don't know that child if that is your contact with them. So, who is on the IEP team? It's the class teacher. It's the inclusion teacher or the inclusion assistant who might be working with that child in a school. It is going to be external service providers like myself who might be working with the child. And it's very, very important to include the child's voice. So part of the IEP team is the child themselves. Why do we need that? Because it's their learning journey. They need to have a say in how the plan is going to work for them. And again, going back to that strength-based approach, when you start talking about the IEP, you're not just looking at the child from a perspective of deficit. You're looking at a child from a view of strength. This is what their strength is, and these are the challenges that we need to now start plugging in. And who can talk about their strengths best? It is the child themselves. I'm good at A, B, and C. I love coming into school and doing this, this, and this. This has to be included in the IEP because we need to have their voice there. I'm going to skip out of this. I'm going to talk about very briefly a dyslexic child who is not a start for services, doesn't come in. Like he walked in one day for his session here and like his face was all lit up. And he said, "You are in the presence of genius." And I'm like, "Mate, that's amazing, but tell me, why am I in the presence of genius?" And what his school had done, he's really good at science. What his school had done was taken him into a lower grade, younger kids, and they got this dyslexic kiddo to teach a short, brief science lesson. And that's part of his IEP because that boosts his self-esteem, that boosts his self-confidence. So that's your IEP team. Teacher, class teacher, parent, child, external service providers or external experts, and any inclusion assistant or staff who might be working with that child. So, and the team should meet and together create that IEP. While creating an IEP, don't undercommit and don't overcommit. Look at what your resource allocations are and be very honest with parents that this is what we can provide. Beyond this, we can't. So if you need more help, you might need to look elsewhere. Is it this one? Okay. Right. Now let's talk about the SMART goals that will work for. So if you use this one as a bank, this is a good bank. It doesn't tell you what should be written in there, but using this as kind of like a basket of things that work for that entire spectrum of kids who are struggling with literacy, this is a good one. So the first thing, obviously, given that they're dyslexic, they need synthetic phonics support. Now, by synthetic phonics, I mean that, you know, C says k, A says a, T says t, and then we put them together and we get cat. Okay, that's phonics. So a good phonics program which has been created for small group or one-to-one learning, that's the first thing. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a specialist program. A lot of people think that, oh, we need to have like this big brand name attached to dyslexia support. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. You can take your school's tier 1 main phonics program and just provide it at a slower, more intensive pace in small groups or one-to-one for children who are struggling with reading and spelling. The second thing is that acknowledgement of co-occurring conditions. Never ever in all my adult life that I've been working with dyslexia, I had a child who's only had dyslexia. So dyslexia is going to come with ADHD, auditory thing, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia. It doesn't occur on its own. So you can't just, support and create an IEP for them. You need to look at that constellation that makes up the child. Strengths, challenges. How do we balance them out? So, if a child is struggling with attention, give them their intervention in school at the end of the day, 3 p.m. It's not going to work for them because they're absolutely burnt out. If you've got a child with significant dyspraxia or dysgraphia, paragraph with correct spelling, come on, it's not going to happen. Okay, so acknowledgement and support for the co-occurring conditions has to be there as part of your IEP goal for your dyslexia intervention to be effective. I mean, if you guys follow me on Instagram, the type of alternative seating that you see in my room, the kick pants, the wobble cushions, the ball chair, standing desks, all of these are there to cater for those co-occurring conditions. And most of the children that I work with, I don't work with them in isolation. They have multidisciplinary interventions over here at TDCC. So all of my kids work with me and they work with the OT department because that kind of takes care of the whole aspect of dyspraxia and dysgraphia and attentional issue. Those are your SMART goals number 2. SMART goal number 3, the duration of support. Some children might actually need to start with a very, very short duration, intensely 15 minutes, 4 times a week. They might not be able to sustain their attention for longer periods of time. And their IEP goal could be, right, we're starting with 15 minutes, we're going to stretch this to 25 minutes in X number of time. So duration and frequency and the timing of support, all of these things tie in with those conditions. So by timing of support, don't put it in at the end of the dimension. Don't, one of the things that irks me so much, you got a child and you say, okay, we're going to schedule in your reading intervention during your break, PE lesson, during the things that you like doing. No, that's like an absolute red line. Don't go there. Don't make reading an intervention punishment. A lot of children who have had their assessments will probably have an exemption in a second or a third language. So they could be pulled out of their modern foreign languages lesson to be given a dyslexia intervention. You can ask the child to be brought into school 20 minutes before the start of the day. So that in right in the morning. Okay, assistive technology, I get asked. Now, what happens after sort of year 5 and year 6 is that boat has sailed. We are no longer learning to read, we are reading to learn. So if there's a gap, we need to close that gap because these are smart kids. They need access to curriculum. They need assistance with something that bridges the ideas in their head to however you're assessing them. Now, assistive technology, what's out there has probably changed in the time that I've been speaking to you. That's how fast the field grows. So again, I am going to show you a wonderful, wonderful resource. So if you're secondary, even if you're primary, if you're interested in assistive technology, this is what you need to do. You need to go to these people. Luckily, they're online. It's Call Scotland. Call Scotland are a charity based in, obviously, Scotland, who do a lot of work with assistive technology across a whole range of neurodiversity, from dyslexic kids to autistic kids to PMLD kids. It's all there, and not just kids, adults as well. So this is their website. What is their website? callscotland.org.uk. And if you click on most popular links, you are going to find short courses that you can do. You are going to find their webinars are amazing and they're generally free, just like this one. And let's just, you've got a whole range over here. You've even got books that are free to access. If you look at dyslexia, I have a writing difficulty, what can help? I have a reading difficulty, what can help? I struggle with math, what can help? So if you, for example, click on reading, this entire thing opens up on how technology and assistive technology is going to help children access reading. And a lot of it is not rocket science. So many of you might have seen the little wheel of apps that looks like this. This wheel of apps actually comes from Call Scotland, and they have created this wheel of apps for an entire range of needs. Okay, so again, empower yourself, inform yourself. So much is out there that is not behind paywalls and is free to access. Right here, going back. So we've talked about assistive technology. I also want to talk about inclusive assessment. Teachers, you have to be mindful of how you're assessing children. If you get an email from any of us over here at TDCC, we have this little thing at the bottom of our signatures, all of us, and it says, don't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. So if you don't have inclusive assessment policies in your classroom, you're judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree. You really need to give your little fishies the right environment, whether it's a pond, a lake, a river, the ocean. Give them that so that they can show you what they know. And some of the teachers I've spoken with who have got really, really good inclusive assessment practice in their classrooms, rather than asking their child to write down an essay, they have asked them to create a presentation like this, stand in front of the classroom and present their idea. So there are many, many creative ways in which children can be assessed. And then just some, nice basic tips for an inclusive classroom. Kids should not, dyslexic kids or kids who are struggling with literacy, kids who are struggling with that tracking and convergence. Don't ask them to copy stuff off the white, because the rest of your kids are going to be one paragraph into their writing, and your struggling kiddo is still going to be copying perhaps the long date of your whiteboard or whatever you have in your classroom. So yeah, just copying from the board, no. Another thing that can be done is if you have a smart board in your classroom and you write in a black font color on a white background, just good, universally inclusive practice, that black on white is really harsh and tiresome on eyes. So what can be done is a bright electric, kind of like the color that I'm wearing right now, this kind of blue as your background, and a neon fluorescent yellow color for you to write on your board. That is much kinder on the eyes. So that's your inclusive classroom. And obviously, I shouldn't even be saying this. Don't have dyslexic kids or kids who are hesitant or kids who have a lisp or a stutter or a stammer. Unless they really, really want to, don't force them to read. Reducing the number of those instances that causes any child shame or distress, taking those away, taking those out of your classroom, and making it universal, making it inclusive is really what you're aiming for. Click here. Nothing happens. Right. See, it happens for Jester, it doesn't happen for me. Story of my life. Smart goals. Now, how do you write a smart goal, a single good smart goal in your IEP? The first thing to do is identify the area. let's say that you have identified reading as the goal. I'm actually going to talk you through two goals, writing two different goals. So the first one, what is your goal area? Your goal area is literacy, and within that, you have chosen reading. What you need to do is number one, have a uniform assessment because you need a baseline. This child is currently reading at this level with this much fluency, and the fluency has to be a number words per minute, WPM. So let's say that your reading scheme is Oxford Owl, and you can say that Zara is currently reading at level 4 with a fluency of 74 words per minute. So then when you do a follow-up assessment, it has to use exactly the same measures. You cannot establish a baseline using one measure and do a testing later on of one goal using another measure. Apples, oranges. We can't do that. Okay? So have a uniform measurement. It has to be very, very clear. What is your desired result? Numbers are your friend here. So Zara will go from level 4 to level 5, reading with an accuracy of between 90 to 95%, and her fluency will increase from 74 words per minute to 80 words per minute. You've stated the desired result. All right, so you've got your goal, you've got your measurement, and you have identified the desired result. Then you have to identify what the support tool is going to be. How is it going to happen? I mean, it's going to happen because we will provide number one, always, always. How is it going to happen? Through quality fast teaching. Just being in the classroom with a teacher who's teaching them. That's always number one. Then you kind of pull into tier 2, which is your small group or one-to-one support. In that, this intervention will be delivered by this person these many times a week. If you don't have an intervention, you will simply state, Zara will work in a small group for these many hours per week, and these are the patterns of sounds that she's going to be working on. And then someone has to be the person where the responsibility lies of executing this and also measuring the response to intervention. So the key person has to be stated there. And parents can be pulled into this as well. Going back to when we talked about team, parents can be pulled into as well that how much support is going to be taken from or given at home. Your timeline has to be defined. So if I'm to move from level 4 to level 5, is it going to happen over a year? Is it going to happen over half a term? Identify your timeline. And also in the very last column, you make a list of all the tools and interventions that you're using. So if you put the child on Nessie, and Nessie is what they're doing at home, you pop that down there, that 3 times a week, kiddo is going to sit with nanny, mom, dad, carer, and work on Nessie for X number of minutes per session. Right. So what will your goal then look like? See, did it wrong again. Thanks. Okay, now we're on the right one. Goal statement. So how will you state your goal? So we are right now, let's say that we are writing this goal in September. All right, by November 2024, Zara will be reading as measured by Dibbles or as measured by the accuracy on Oxford Owl with 85%, 95% accuracy. You will include the current baseline and you will mention the nature and frequency of support as we spoke about just now. Okay, now we have 43 questions. Are there questions in the chat? Right, now we have gone to Q&A and we have about 15 minutes for this. So guys, please
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the beautiful presentation. Everyone, please write your question on the chat box. We have one question this time.
Okay.
Or two.
Okay, so my daughter doesn't need an IEP anymore. She can only do with a support plan. Again, this is where the KHDA requirements come in. Children who require a lot of support, they are on IEPs, and children who are doing really, really well. So congratulations, mashallah, your daughter is doing really, really well. They have now put her on a support plan, which is just kind of keeping an eye on things. So personally, for me, one of my kiddos is on an IEP, the other one is on a support plan, and yeah, that's how it works. Right. Next one is please go to previous slide. Jester, can we go to previous slide? I'm not touching anything. Okay. Right. Done. IGCSE board access arrangement. How do we train students before they attempt the board paper? So board access arrangements are extremely, extremely important for children who are about to sit for these big exams like the GCSEs and the A-levels. GCSE board access arrangements are to be done either by an in-school assessor if your school has one, or it has to be done in a setting like ours, where someone like Dr. Ruba, who is a licensed assessor, is going to be giving you those access arrangements. So once again, personal example, I want to have my older child assessed for if they qualify for using a keyboard due to their dyspraxia. So they're going to be doing their exam access arrangements now, and then it would become, okay, how do we train students before they attempt the board paper? JCQ, which is like my governing body for exam access, they say that an exam access arrangement should be the usual way of working for a student in the school. So if someone is to say, for example, use a keyboard or touch typing rather than handwriting to answer exam questions, then perhaps ideally this should be happening all through secondary, but perhaps from year 8, 9, 10, they should be doing their history, psychology, English lit, English lang on a keyboard. So we don't necessarily want to start training a child on a completely new skill 3 weeks before they're supposed to be sitting an exam, because the skill needs to be ingrained. And we sometimes think that keyboarding or having spelling exemption, this kind of removes all of the load. No, it removes only some of the load, because you're still having to plan and organize and analyze everything that you are going to write. That's going to happen in your head. It's just that we have taken away the barrier of your dyspraxia or your dysgraphia by giving you, for example, a keyboard. So if your child is moving from year 6 to year 7, they don't necessarily need exam access arrangements right now, but having them assessed to see what accommodations they need should happen now, so that all through secondary, by the time they are ready to take their exams in year 11, it becomes what JCQ calls their usual way of working in school. What would you say is the most important intervention to support a child in dyslexia? Right. The most important intervention is a synthetic phonics intervention. Proven to be most effective. Not all phonics programs are created equal. Some are better than the others. And the thing is that the science of phonics is constantly evolving. There are some really, really good ones. And also, there is no universal good one. So one phonics intervention might work brilliantly for one child, and it may be like, nah, for another. What you need to do is measure response to intervention. So I use a measure called DIBBLES, and that simply shows me where my kiddos are. I create 3 data points per term using DIBBLES just to see how they're responding to a particular intervention. If they're not responding very well, then I start looking for option B or option C. Can you explain how to establish a baseline? Well, it really depends on the baseline for what. Say a reading baseline, you give a child a good thing I have this in hand. Will this be visible? If I keep it like this, it might be.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna, oh, we lost it. Right, so here's a little reading. So you count the number of words there are, and you have the child read it. And what happens is you're giving them no help. So they're just reading, you're not helping them. And each time they get something wrong, you put a little dot on that word. So for one paragraph, you will then know how many words they have read and how many words they have read correct. So words read correct, WRC divided by total number of words into 100 gives you their accuracy. And fluency is simply how many words they have read in 1 minute. So that would be your reading baseline. You could have a baseline for spelling. You could also have a baseline for writing. How much should we rely on assistive technology for year 5 plus students? A 4 ORF level. Quite a lot, I would say. But again, what do they need? Year 5 plus, like I said, that door starts to close in which we can plug in skill. And I'm not saying this to, make you guys go like, oh my God, my child is never going to be. No. It's not that. It's about giving them that big step that they need to access curriculum. So, and reading technology is so advanced now. It's not even expensive. Most of it is not even behind a paywall. You could simply highlight a piece of text and Microsoft Word will read it out for you. So year 5, I would definitely be looking at lots and lots of assistive tech for the child. Low-income schools or IDP centers gain access to educational support for dyslexia. I don't know what is IDP centers? Any idea? Just will Google IDP centers. Listen, dyslexia is the best researched learning disability out there. Even in a low-income school, because it is a school. Okay, displaced people. Because it is a school, it has to have a phonics program. You have to be teaching them of something. And when you have that phonics program, let's say it's Jolly Phonics, you have to have a reading scheme that goes along with that. What you're teaching in the classroom, if you have nothing else, take what you're teaching in the classroom and reteach the same thing in very, very small, tiny little bite-sized pieces to your dyslexic kids, because they just require, and it might be kids who are not dyslexic, but might be at the risk of dyslexia, they just might need small group or one-to-one, really intense instruction. Let's say that your ELA lesson for the mainstream classroom is happening twice a week. These kids might need it 5 times a week. Nadia, you're most welcome. That is such a sweet thing to say. Listen, everything that I do in webinars and also on my Instagram is to point you guys to resources that you don't have to pay for. And if you have to pay for them, I make sure that I put in something which is going to be really effective for a child. How to identify specific learning difficulties in kindergarten students? No, you don't do that. KG, they're still learning to read. They're still learning to be regulated in the classroom. So in kindergarten, we're not identifying anyone with anything. We are providing them with a play-based learning environment, and then learning through only play. Now, you can identify kids at risk though, and that is genetic risk. If the parents have shared with you that one or both of them is dyslexic, you keep a closer eye on that child. If your child has come in with a lisp, with a stutter, with a language impairment, that child is at risk. If you have got children who have sensory impairments, by that I mean that they have a hearing impairment or they have a visual impairment like strabismus, these are the kids who are at risk. But are we identifying kids with ADHD and ODD and dyslexia in kindergarten? No, absolutely. We're not going to do that. How can I make sure IEP goals are realistic but still challenging for a student with dyslexia? Simply by being realistic about it. Okay, so if someone is reading at Oxford Owl level 4, expecting them to jump to level 6 in 4 weeks, that is unrealistic. So writing a realistic goal would be that I'm looking at ORF right now, reading fluency. So my child is in grade 4, and on the lowest percentile is someone who is reading in grade 4 in year 4 at a fluency of 25 words per minute. What would be a realistic goal? Trying to get them to 35. That would be a realistic goal. And it also depends upon how intensively you're working with them. If you're only working with them for 20 minutes a week, then come on, it's like a little kiddo. If you're not helping them, you can't expect them to make masses of progress. What's the most effective duration per week for intervention for a newly diagnosed 10-year-old? Enable us to fill the gaps. I can't answer that question, I'm afraid, because I don't know your child. And again, it's never only just dyslexia. If I knew your child, I would have told you what they need. But honestly, there isn't even a rule of thumb for this. This is incredibly individualized. Some kids need once a week. Some kids would benefit from 5 times a week. So, sorry. Possible to get access. That was mentioned by. Can we
can send it the link.
Yeah. Yeah. So my lead will send it to you. It's her job. She's gonna do it.
Yes. Yeah. When we send the replay.
Okay. So when my lead will send you the replay, she will put in the link for the KHTA resource and Call Scotland as well. Yes, you can get a recording of the meeting. And anything else? I think we've tackled them all. Okay. So I'm gonna try and make this thing work. Oh, see, did it wrong again. So this is us. You can connect with us. Instagram, website, Facebook. Mylene is on Facebook with TDCC. I'm not. I embarrass my children too much by being on social media. So you can find, these are the places where you can find us. Insta, website, and there's also a Facebook, right? We have a Facebook page, which is the Developing Child Center. And thank you very much. Hopefully you guys found it useful, and let's keep working together to create a more inclusive society. All right, guys, are we getting any certificates? No, you're not.
But it's for free. But we do have trainings.
We do have trainings.
Yes.
We do have trainings, and but they do come with a cost attached. And for that, yes, there is CPD points,
Yeah.
I think, in KHTA approved something. All right, guys, have a really lovely rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Zara.
Thank you again, Zara, for that beautiful presentation. Everyone, please join me. I'm going to share announcement from TDCC, the latest from the center. Thank you.
We would like to take this chance to share with you some updates from TDCC.
The popular Summer Phonics Camp
Thank
is
you so
now
much.
here. TDCC is excited to bring you the best of the latest evidence-based literacy practice from the USA. Led by dyslexia and literacy specialists, this program offers engaging and interactive learning, small group instruction, and personalized strategies to meet each child's needs.
The intensive summer camp of the Inclusive Education Services will start on the 8th of July this year. Specialist educators and therapists will provide exciting opportunities for children aged 3 to 13 and can enjoy 6 weeks of fun to discover. Learn and play on this transformative summer camp with 2:1 child to adult ratio for optimum result. Activities include arts and crafts, cooking, sensory play, academics, social skills, fine and gross motor skills, language and communication, attention and listening. Enroll your child now.
Caregiver training. This program focuses on developing knowledge, skills, and values necessary to provide quality care for children of determination. The training will cover topics such as the basic needs of the child, communication strategies, understanding behavior and sensory needs, social and play skills, and fostering independence and home routines. This is facilitated by experienced and committed educators in the Inclusive Education Services led by Amina Shazib, psychologist and head of Inclusive Education Services.
Admission for academic year 2024 to 2025 is still open for children aged 4 to 14 years old. This is a unique program integrating both educational learning and therapeutic strategies designed for children with learning difficulties. We provide early intervention programs, preschool intervention, life skills, and school readiness program.
Eating therapy. This therapy session helps children who are struggling to eat. Our therapists provide evidence-based approaches on how to make mealtime enjoyable that would eventually end mealtime struggle. Spot therapy combines speech-language and occupational therapy for children, offering enhanced attention, improved social skills, integrated language, and communication development to children, and consistent support for parents and caregivers. Sensory integration therapy. This is an evidence-based approach that benefits children beyond autism. Our therapists create a sensory-rich environment using specialized equipment. This therapy focuses on developing a strong sensory system, which is crucial for motor skills, executive functions, and behavior. Thematis listening therapy. This is a transformative auditory training therapy available for children and young adults. This therapy listening method has been proven effective in enhancing attention skills and communication abilities. Neurofeedback therapy. At TDCC, we specialize in neurofeedback therapy for children and young adults. It promotes mental well-being in young individuals with anxiety, depression, ADHD, and many more. Visual perception therapy. In this therapy, children improve their visual processing skills through specialized activities and exercises. It enhances visual discrimination, tracking, and spatial awareness, leading to improved academic performance and coordination. This is tailored to each child's needs. It promotes independence and success in daily life. Spider cage therapy. This is a transformative intervention for children designed to address motor challenges and sensory integration difficulties. This therapy optimizes motor skills, coordination, balance, and sensory processing to foster the overall development of children. Our handwriting program is available in Arabic, English, and French. Children who are struggling to write legibly can benefit from this program.
TDCC is home to highly skilled dyslexia and literacy specialists who conduct personalized assessments to identify specific challenges individuals face with reading, writing, and spelling. We use evidence-based strategies and interventions and develop tailored plans to improve phonological awareness, decoding skills, and spelling abilities, flourishing and leadership for the youth. This is a resilience-based program designed and delivered by a social behavior counseling expert, Kipa Shrestha, for children aged 7-12 years old. The FLY children will learn positive self-talk, mindfulness practices, and gratitude practices. By the end of the 5-week workshop, they will have developed the necessary skills and character traits to face challenges with resilience and lead a flourishing life. Educational psychology. Our expert psychologists provide educational assessments and schools observations using evidence-based tools and strategies to help parents and schools make informed decisions about the student's education. Counseling services. At TDCC, our psychologists incorporate proven cognitive-based therapy and practical strategies and solutions to support children, adolescents, and their families to meet family objectives. Parenting services. The parenting services focus on specific challenges related to child development, behavior management, and communication. It empowers parents and caregivers with the tools in helping children achieve a happy, healthy, and well-adjusted life. If interested in any of these programs, please contact us. Have a screenshot with our contact details. You can also share this to your friends and to anyone who needs support. Thank you for joining us today. For updates of the next webinar, training, and services, please scan these core codes. Follow us on social media. Visit our website for more information and booking of appointments. Thank you once again to our speaker and to everyone who joined us in the Zoom. And
Could you take a minute to give TDCC and the speaker a 5-star rating on Google Reviews? Please scan the QR codes on your screen. Thank you, everyone.